Looking to take your Apex Legends gameplay to the next level? Have you tried getting better settings? That's right, the reason that your gameplay is being bottlenecked is all because of your settings. If you use these settings that I'm about to tell you, not only will you aim better, but you will move faster, jump higher, lift more, fly. If you use these settings. Hey, what's up everyone? It's Robo, and I hope you guys enjoyed that over-the-top intro. I made it to exemplify how so many people act about the Apex Legends settings. However, in this video, I will be diving into the truth about finding the best Apex Legends settings and sensitivity for you, and why most videos on the topic are incredibly misleading. I will also be diving into my personal settings and why I use them. I'll be also going more in depth about each of the settings and what they do. 2021 is almost here, and instead of watching a whole new settings video every season, here's one that will hopefully be relevant all year long and beyond. Originally, I was not going to make a settings video because pretty much every other YouTuber has already done it, but I get a lot of requests on stream nearly every day from people wanting to know what mine are and what they should use, and a lot of them seem to think that all they have to do is change a couple settings and then bam, they'll have the same settings and they'll be just as good as me. And for those people, this video will be sadly a little bit of a wake-up call. But by the end of this video, I do hope that everyone watching will have a good understanding on settings, sensitivity, and how to find the right ones for you. Before we start, this video will be mostly geared towards controller players. Getting right into it, the first truth I will be discussing is the fact that what settings and sensitivities work best for one person will not necessarily work for another in Apex Legends or in any game. Everyone has a variety of skills, experiences, what they find comfortable, their preferences, play styles, goals. Any video that just says, hey, use these settings if you want to play better, or hey, change to this sense if you want to play like me, they're just very misleading, and that's just not the case. This leads me to my next truth, that there are not a lot of settings in Apex that actually make a huge difference. For most of them, just using the default settings will work just fine. I've actually had some bad luck with PlayStations, and I've used over 4 PlayStations this year. Each time when redoing my settings, I personally only had a few settings that I even had to worry about. Let's now go into those settings and what my settings are and what all of the settings mean. Now for most people, you won't actually want to use my exact settings. As an experienced gamer and live streamer, I just have different goals and preferences than most. Instead of just starting in this gameplay tab, which we will go back to, I say we go over to the controller tab because most of the things here in this gameplay tab are going to be more preference. They're not going to make a huge difference, maybe a couple of them, but in general, I don't see any settings there that really will change how you play, but we'll go into those here shortly. A good one to start with here on controller is the button layout. Button layout, you can either choose between default, button puncher, jumper, evolved, grenader, ninja, or customize it yourself. I personally play in button puncher, which all it does is swap your melee and your crouch. I like it. It allows me to crouch, slide, and just do all of that in fights much more easily. I rarely will have to just very quickly melee, and even if I do have to, I personally play in claw position. I don't recommend claw. I've been playing in claw for most of my life, ever since I was a little boy. I have very large, strong, and flexible hands, so it doesn't put any tension on my hands, and I feel like it gives me a little bit of an edge, but I would not recommend it. I would actually recommend getting a controller with paddles, which I do not have. I play on a default controller for now, but I do plan on switching to a controller with paddles at some time in the future. The big difference between these controller presets is that jumper will switch your jump and your tactical ability. Puncher, we just explained. Evolved is like both of those two combined. This is just weird. I wouldn't recommend it. If you want to try it, that's all you. I wouldn't recommend it. And I know a couple people that play on Ninja. I actually don't know much about it myself, but you guys can experiment with that. And then we have customized. Most people, for you guys, if you have a pro controller, default, and then just linking your buttons, or just button puncher. I feel like these are the two most popular. Evolved, kind of popular as well, but you know, this will be another one of those preferences. I personally keep it on button puncher. Stick layout, I have it on default. You know, the only acceptable one, I think, in my opinion. Interact and reload. Either one's fine. This is more of a preference thing. I like tap just so that I have more preciseness. Doesn't really affect too much. Crouch button, I like it on toggle for the same reason, although I have seen hold, you can kind of spam it a little more, but personally, I don't find a lot of use in that. Aim button, hold. You know, that way when I stop pressing the aim button, it's no longer aiming. L2 and R2 button dead zones. I actually have a little bit of default, but if you don't have any stick drift on your controller, just go ahead and go with no dead zone. That'll be fine. Menu cruiser speed, about halfway is good. It was going a little fast for me, so I did lower it a little bit, but I do probably want to rise it back up a little bit soon. A big thing with sensitivity is just being consistent, so I'm going to do it very slowly over time. All right, now getting into the movement and aiming tab, this is where a lot of you guys will have the most effect. This is probably the most important settings of them all. And a lot of people won't believe me, but I actually play on 4:4 sensitivity. I like it. I've been playing on it for a very long time. I like it because it's very consistent. I like consistency. I think one of the most important things about sensitivity is just keeping it the same and not changing it much. You want to have everything as consistent as possible. That way, you know exactly what you're getting and you can kind of build muscle memory around it. The way muscle memory works is that every second that you're not using it, it's kind of slowly fleeting you. So you're gonna always wanna be refreshing it with very consistent just feedback and information. That way you know what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and it's consistent every time. If you're changing that and you're taking breaks, it's gonna be really hard and it's not gonna feel right and it's just not gonna be comfortable. The big thing about sensitivity is finding the right sensitivity and then basically never changing it. So you won't see me changing my sensitivity anytime soon. I know a lot of people use these advanced look controls. We'll go into those in a second. I don't use them, but we can go into them in a second. Per optic settings. So I have these as my optic settings. And once again, just to reiterate, all the settings on all of it will be very personal preference. I think that personally playing on a lower sensitivity is better for a game like this on console. If you're trying to compare to other pros, make sure that you're comparing them to other console players, because a lot of the console players will play on very similar sensitivities. They won't go and max out any of this because they know that if they play on insane, even though sure they can flick around and they can move really quickly, they know that they can probably aim even better if they just had it a little bit slower. And no matter how well you can aim at 9 or 8, I bet you that you can aim better at 5 or 4. And that's just the case. There'll be a lot of situations that you're gonna need to do a quick 180, but in reality, I think 4:4 is plenty fast to turn around, and especially if you're comparing it to like other controller players, you're just not gonna get that quick 180 like you can on a PC. That's just the reality of it. And if you change your entire sensitivity to, you know, fit that model, you're just gonna like sack your ability to do other things like more precise aiming and making those micro adjustments down a long distance fight and all of those little things. So that being said, we're gonna go into the response curve. I like to play on classic. It does feel very consistent. I know a lot of people play on all of the other ones. Steady, linear are two of the like more common ones other than classic. Linear, I tried out. I didn't like. I think classic's just for me. I don't like to mess with sensitivities. Unfortunately, I do have that stick drift, so I do have a small look dead zone, and the movement dead zone I put on small. Inverted look, of course not. If you play on inverted, I want to see video evidence, and I don't believe you. Vibration on. That's actually pretty you know, controversial these days. You know, I actually like the vibration. It lets me know when I get shot. It lets me know if something's happening. I never once in my entire history of gaming ever died and been like, man, that vibration threw me off. Like, it's just never happened. I've never worried about turning it off, and I think I'm better for it. So you won't see me changing my sensitivity anytime soon. I know a lot of people use these advanced look controls. We'll go into those in a second. I personally don't use them, but we can go into them in a second. Per optic settings. So I have these as my optic settings. And once again, just to reiterate, all the settings on all of it will be very personal preference. I think that personally playing on a lower sensitivity is better for a game like this on console. If you're trying to compare to other pros, make sure that you're comparing them to other console players, because a lot of the console players will play on very similar sensitivities. They won't go and max out any of this because they know that if they play on insane, even though sure they can flick around and they can move really quickly, they know that they can probably aim even better if they just had it a little bit slower. And no matter how well you can aim at 9 or 8, I bet you that you can aim better at 5 or 4. And that's just the case. There'll be a lot of situations that you're going to need to do a quick 180, but in reality, I think 4.4 is plenty fast to turn around, and especially if you're comparing it to like other controller players, you're just not going to get that quick 180 like you can on a PC. That's just the reality of it. And if you change your entire sensitivity to, you know, fit that model, you're just gonna like sack your ability to do other things like more precise aiming and making those micro adjustments down a long distance fight and all of those little things. So that being said, we're gonna go into the response curve. I like to play in classic. It does feel very consistent. I know a lot of people play on all of the other ones. Steady, linear are two of the like more common ones other than classic. Linear, I tried out. I didn't like. I think classic's just for me. I don't like to mess with sensitivities. Unfortunately, I do have that stick drift, so I do have a small look dead zone, and the movement dead zone I put on small. Inverted look. Of course not. If you play on inverted, I want to see video evidence, and I don't believe you. Vibration on. That's actually pretty, you know, controversial these days. You know, I actually like the vibration. It lets me know when I get shot. It lets me know if something's happening. I never once in my entire history of gaming ever died and been like, man, that vibration threw me off. Like, it's just never happened. I've never worried about turning it off, and I think I'm better for it. Advanced look controls. Now, if you turn this on, your sensitivity here will be done. This will not matter. I learned that the hard way. These are all default. I personally would be changing a lot of these. Dead zone, I would have as small as you can, depending on your controller. Out of threshold, same story. Response curve will depend on your kind of response curve that you wanted that we just talked about. And for pretty much everything else, I would actually pretty much put it all at the bottom. And this is the reason why, except for yaw speed. Yaw speed I would put up because that would kind of allow me to do, when I'm not aiming, it allowed me to do a quick 180 if I'm getting shot in the back. But honestly, besides that, I would turn everything pretty much all the way down. And the reason for that is because I don't want any little things messing with my aim. If it's gonna slowly start ramping up or do anything like that, that's just gonna make it very hard to be consistent. You're not gonna understand those little ramp ups. Your brain is not gonna know how fast it's ramping up. It's gonna be it's gonna happen too fast, and it's just not going to make a big difference for me in the way I play in the games that I'm used to. Some of you guys might wanna use a different setting combo, but me, if you guys keep in mind, this is not the right ones. I don't use this, so this is normally off for me. But if I were, I'd have a lot of this stuff all the way down, and I'd keep these on. Moving on to video, field of view. I like to play it on 110. It defaults on 70, and if you rise it any number over 70, you might have some frame drop issues. Especially if you're playing on a default PlayStation. This is definitely a reality that you will have to face. However, it feels much better if you rise it from 70. I would recommend anywhere between 90 and 110. I play it on 110 just because it's just more comfortable for me. It allows me to have more vision. Although I have been seeing a lot of people lower their field of view recently. But keeping it between 90 and 110 is a good call. And if you want to keep it on 70, that's fine. You know, a lot of this stuff will be preference, like I said earlier. Sprint view shake, minimal, why not? Oop. All right, audio, doesn't matter, right? Right? Okay, gameplay. Gameplay tab. All right, so a lot of this stuff will be personal preference, but let's go into it and what I use. So for the interactive prompt style, either one's fine. I've tried them both and I don't really notice it in game. Button hints, I leave it on. The only reason I leave it on is because I stream and just so people know that I'm playing on a PlayStation and they don't have to ask every 5 minutes. You definitely would want these on, your crosshair damage feedback. And the reason for that is that way you know the shields that they have, and it's just very valuable to know when you're getting the damage and when you're hitting the person. Damage numbers, I like it on stacking just so that it doesn't have a ton of information and it's just one quick thing that you know exactly how much damage you did and it doesn't blow up a bunch of numbers on the screen or anything like that. The ping opacity, I used to have it on faded, but on this PlayStation I forgot to change it and I didn't even notice. Obituaries are fine, I like them, they're kind of interesting at times. Mini map rotation, I keep it off just so that my mini map is consistent, but depending on the game you play, you might want that on. Weapon auto cycle on empty, on. Auto sprint on, I like auto sprint being on just so that I can save my L button on my controller. As you guys know, stick drift is not my friend, and anything that can just save my controller a little bit is cool with me. For people that want more precise control, I can understand why you'd want it off, but in most cases, I feel like it's just nice to have on. Double tap sprint off. You know, that's fine if you want it on, but I don't think pressing it twice would be very good if you're in a sprint or a die situation. Incoming damage feedback, 3D is fine for me, but you know, doesn't really matter, does it? Taking damage closes death box menu. I actually want that on. I want that on. I didn't realize it was off, and you know, I don't go into my settings much, so here we go. This video was helpful for me. We got that on. Hop up, pop up, on. Streamer mode, that's up to you guys. I actually have a problem that people do stream snipe me. It is a weird one. People will see me in their obituaries. They'll see me as like kill leader or champion squad, and they'll just throw up on my stream. And if they don't know that I'm in their lobby, they can't do that. However, I do like, you know, being, you know, thought of. You know, it's nice, so I keep it off. Anonymous mode, same concept, but probably more effective. Usage sharing, doesn't matter if you want it off or on. That's your call. You go ahead and do that. Cross-platform play, I have it enabled. You could disable it, I think. But you know, for me, it's on. Performance display, I like it on just so that I know what my frame rates are. If I'm lagging or anything like that, this will let me know. And then also so my stream knows and that they believe me when I go, oh my God, my frames. And they go, no, Robo, you had amazing frames. I'm like, no, it said 30. And they're like, So having that number on screen is just nice for that. Club invites enabled, you know, might as well. You know, I might turn that off, but it's up to you guys if you guys want club invites. Colorblind mode, are you colorblind? You know, I like it off. I like the way it looks. Some people make an argument for it on. I like it off. I don't have subtitles, they're off. And then enabled excess chat features, I keep that off. Convert incoming voice to chat, off. So that's about it. That's all of the main settings that I can think of. Let me know how you guys enjoyed the audio for this video. I did it a little different. I knew it was gonna be a lot of audio, so I did most of it while playing the game, you know, in game, and it's kind of harder. It's less takes and it's just a little different. So let me know in the comments of what you think of it compared to my other videos. And if you haven't already, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching this far, man. You guys are troopers. I'm out of here.